The Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Nzimande, has announced the opening of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, or NSFAS 2021 application cycle. This year, the NSFAS application cycle will run for a period of 4 months, with the closing date being November 30, 2020. The applications for students from poor and working class backgrounds who wish to further their studies at any public technical and vocational education and training college or TVET college or university. To speak more about this is Dr. Randall Carolissen, who's NSFAS Administrator. Very good evening to you, Dr. Carolissen, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So no doubt COVID-19 has impacted on the higher education calendar. How has it impacted on you specifically as NSFAS? Have you seen an exponential growth in the number of people who, I know it's too early to tell, but who probably would be applying for it now? Because there was a 20% increase last year, so I'd imagine that the figure would be much higher now.
Yes, we are concerned about the demand that will go up from next year onwards, because we're appreciative of the fact that many people have lost their jobs. And we are busy with demand curve projections for that. We are comfortable that we have opened up in time for people that want to make use of this opportunity. But be that as it may, we expect even a bigger increase than this current year, yes. So people must apply early, and they must not wait for the last moment, because last year we had to open up again in January, which this year probably won't be the case.
So the capacity that you have now, I know the figures were 700,000. So for this cycle, is that correct?
Yes, we've funded over 700,000 students for 2020, which is a record year for us. And yes, we expect the demand to creep up. But then again, also I want to add that once you are approved by NSFAS, it does not mean that you are funded. You have to make sure that you get into university or TVET colleges, because only then do you become fully funded, not by us declaring you eligible.
Dr. Carolissen, what picture is emerging just in terms of the compared registration data over the past 5 years? Is there a trend that you can pinpoint that perhaps COVID-19 will exacerbate or create a shift that is necessary for you to be able to recalibrate the system, as it were?
Well, the system was recalibrated with the announcement of fee-free education. So we already can see, and government has made available those funds, that there's an increase in demand. And certainly, as we go forward, as we go forward, we will fully then begin to understand what the demand curve will look going forward. And therefore, also, there are questions about the fee-free and the middle, missing middle, and all of those things will come into the equation. But at the end of the day, students must make sure that they apply early, that their documentation are enabled, and for us to process their eligibility. But more than that is that they must get into university. And so we understand that this year is going to be a tough year for students to finish their academic year, matriculants and even unemployed people. And therefore, it's imperative that they make sure that they qualify for university and TVET going forward.
And what upgrades has the NSFAS portal itself seen?
Oh, we've made many upgrades. It's much easier now to transact with us. We reach rural areas a lot more. But before I become too optimistic about that, we also have to bear in mind that students have to get access to these devices that we have now made available, and make sure that we have a rural footprint. So we are cooperating with a number of other institutions. We are now cooperating with NYDA, with municipalities, and a lot of other government institutions for people to have access to our systems much easier. So we're quite proud of the manner in which we've improved our level of access. Yeah.
There's been an increase in fraud just in terms of COVID-19. Obviously, desperate or resources for people who are desperate. There's been an increasing of that, of looting emergency funds. Do you have the same anxiety that they could touch NSFAS funding, given what we've seen in the past where criminals have taken advantage?
Well, we've built in a number of checks. So, for instance, we are now checking income with SARS, and we have actually unfunded a number of students, about 7,000, that we found that did not qualify for NSFAS initially because of the NSFAS systems that were using credit bureau data, but we have now access to SARS funding. We can validate personal identification through Department of Home Affairs and also with SASSA. So we do a lot of triangulations that were previously not possible, and that we can actually root out people that are not probably ethical in the applications. And so we are comfortable that we are actually reaching the right people. If you look at our SASSA recipients, it's increased by over 200,000 because of that ability of us to validate income and eligibility status, yes. But like I said, there will always be those people that will want to, to exploit shortfalls in the system, but we've made major upgrades, yes.
Okay, so it's sounding all very positive, but what are the challenges that you're facing now that you think may take a little longer than this cycle to fix?
So one of the key challenges would be the extension of the academic year and also the extension of the matriculants, the school system. And therefore, we have to work ceaselessly for the next 4 or 5 months because we expect the academic year to be extended by two months at least. What is very encouraging for me personally is that we shut down our head office, but we are able to still deliver on our payments through to systems, or through to students rather, even during this COVID period. And so we are very encouraged by that we are able to deliver. The big point, though, is that next year we are going to move for TVET colleges at least to direct payments for students through their bank accounts. Now, at the current COVID situation, we pay over to institutions, and those institutions pay on to students, and there's invariably a delay in that. But hopefully, not hopefully, we will definitely be able to cover at least the TVET sector next year by direct payments to students so that they can get their funds in time before the end of the month to fulfill their obligations. So that's quite a big improvement in the project that we are working on.
Final question, Dr. Carolissen. There had been a demand by students previously for NSFAS funds to be extended to those wanting to study postgraduate degrees. Is that still a long way off, especially now with these current challenges? Funds are being squeezed, and as we mentioned, COVID-19 making it even more harder for parents and students to be able to afford.
So at the moment, the funds and the intent of the fund is to fund people to at least get a basic degree and then to find a way for them to study onwards. But we are having discussions in the ministry and with the minister on the NRF funding to extend that to postgraduate funding. And so we have an agreement with the NRF to provide them with the details of the NSFAS students that complete their undergraduate studies to then be funded onwards. But that, of course, will mean extra money. And I mean, that will remain a challenge, but at least we cover the vulnerable and those poor students that need to get into the market.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Randall Carolissen is the NSFAS Administrator. It's now over to Simon for Sport.